Good evening, my friends. This is Angie Stewart from My Inner Light here in Kardec Radio. 2 weeks passed so quickly, so we are here again to continue our beautiful study, to continue improving ourselves, exchanging good examples, and most of all, trying to practice what we study so much. It's very easy to talk about spiritism, but sometimes it's very difficult to practice it. So it's good for us to be reminding ourselves of what we should be doing. So we, little by little, we start getting better and better and better. Isn't it? Yeah, not easy, but we are getting there. We are getting there. Let me see if I will be able to see the names today. I am always doing something wrong with this. I'm not sure what. I cannot see any comments yet. Hopefully it will work later on. I see Carla is here. Carla, could you just test and say anything? Oh, I see Matthew. So Matthew wrote something. Very good. I think it's finally working. I always have internet issues. Not easy. So my friends, it's 9:05, we're late. So let's start. Hopefully you have your water bottle next to you. So the good spirits will be able to put like a nice medication there for the next 2 weeks while we don't return here. So as soon as your water start finishing, you see, if you start finishing, you put more water and you do a prayer, and this water will be replenished with the same medications to make you feel good and as happy as you are right now. So if you never heard of our study before, I always like to start with a short prayer just to connect us with the enlightened spirits, to give us inspiration, for me to talk, and for you to make comments, to ask questions, or just to have a better understanding of what we are going to be talking about tonight. Okay, so let's connect. Dear God, beloved Master Jesus, thank you so much for another opportunity of being here among all our friends, incarnated and discarnated, to study a little bit more about Spiritism, trying to better ourselves, learning how to improve on a daily basis. Please stay with us, help us, inspire us, and send this beautiful energy to our friends that couldn't be here tonight. So even if they listen to this later on, they will feel connected and they will feel this beautiful energy surrounding all of us. Thank you so much. So be it. Very good, my friends. I changed locations. I feel so dark here. I hope you can hear me. I hope is everything good. Hello, Matthew. How are you? Carla, hello, my dear friend. Nice to have you here. Hopefully, you guys can hear me without a problem. So let's go. We always start with our book, Among Brothers of Other Lands. And today we are starting a new chapter, chapter 11. And the chapter 11 is also a little bit longer chapter. You know, the last chapter, chapter 10, had 10 pages. And this has 5 pages. But pages with a lot of content and with important information. So it's not that we can read it really quickly and go through it. But let's see what we can do in our 40 minutes. And because then we have to study the gospel. And if we can't finish it today, then next time we continue. So as I always do, I will read. And please, if you have the book, the chapter today is 11. The title is Food for Thought. and you can ask me questions, you can place your comments, and as soon as I finish, I will start making comments, and I can read anything that you would like to tell us or help us to better understand it. So let's go. Food for thought, and the author of this text is André Luiz. André Luiz is a very famous spirit in Spiritism because he wrote many books, many important books. But in the majority of the cases, people know him because of the movie Nosso Lar, that actually is a book. Nosso Lar is a book, is the first book of the collection of books André Luiz wrote. And André Luiz, he was a doctor here when incarnated on earth. And he was a very proud doctor. He was a good person, but he was not like a saint, like most of us. We are not saints. We are like people full of difficulties. We in one side, in other side. Maybe we're a little bit better here, but we are not good in the other side. The same thing with André Luiz. He was a good person for his time, but he had some bad habits. And these bad habits that were actually very common when he was alive brought him to a very difficult time when he woke up in the spiritual realm. If you saw the movie or if you read the book, it's even better. The books are always much better than the movies. You will see that André Luiz arrived in the spiritual realm in a very tough location. He was in the umbral, or in the lower zones. And the spirits surrounding here keep accusing him of a suicide. They keep screaming at him, "You're suicidal, suicidal." And he was like, "No, I did not kill myself. I died. I had a disease." But if we study, we understand a little bit that every time that you were doing something constantly that's hurting your body, you are committing an indirect suicide. So yes, you did not take your own life with a gun or with any other style of a suicide. But André Luiz, for example, he was a smoker. So in that time, it was very common to smoke, and it was actually something that was fancy to smoke in that time. So people of a high society, they like to sit and smoke. It was like, oh, very fancy. But unfortunately, they later discovered that it was actually killing you little by little. Your lungs stopped working. So this was one of the things that killed André Luiz. He also used to drink a lot, and he also had sexual problems. He not mistreated, but he had mistresses. So his wife, she suffered with that. So for all those things, when he arrived in the spiritual realm, he was not in a very good condition. But anyway, André Luiz recovered. He understood what he had to do to be a better person. And he decided to write these beautiful books with all his life and his excursions, trying to learn this long process of improvement, especially morally improvement. And that's why we are so blessed to have him among so many other spirits who brought us beautiful books. So let's go. The first little sentence here in the top of the page is, this message was psychographed hours after the mediums of this book studied the possibility of accepting an invitation for an interview at a TV program. So as we said, the title is Food for Thought, and the mediums who wrote this book, see, you can see, Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira. They were the mediums who wrote this book. And as we said, the beginning of the book, they wrote messages for people that wanted to study Spiritism and They lived abroad. So Among Brothers of Other Lands. This is the book that brings like the message of hope and love and forgiveness that Spiritism brings to all of us, and especially to the ones that do not speak Portuguese. So it's a blessing for us. In my case, I'm here in the United States, but I know a lot of people from many different countries listen to Kardec Radio. So this is a message to all of us that are living in countries that do not speak Portuguese. So let's go. All stations of respectable publicity are pathways in which the Spiritist idea needs and has to carry over. Our task, though, at this time, is to review the flame of doctrinal principles. Food for thought, appeal to reasoning. We are before a world of in reform, house in transition and remake, between the accommodation of the old and the challenges of the new. We are brought in to rising the cenacle for the values of the soul. To agitate opinions would be a distraction, losing opportunity in extroversion. The evangelical Spiritism asks for decided harvesters to turn over the pews of truth. Silence and constriction. It does not matter that we are few. The disputed bread in the streets was once a commitment of a work between the farmer and the land that welcomes hope. Never despise the opportunity of the beginning. Light up with the book and the spark of light. Here has a little addendum, number 5, so I will read what number 5 is. After 20 days of the receipt of this message, the medium signed an agreement with the Philosophical Library of New York for the launching of the book of the Word of the Spirit. So interesting that André Luiz is writing this message, and only 20 days after it, the New York Philosophical Library wanted to ask Valdo Vieira and Chico Xavier to write a book. And the name of the book is The Word of the Spirit. Very, very interesting. Let's continue. Let us do our part. Other workers will come. The work is not ours. Let us reflect in the supervision that sheds from Christ and dwell on the reverence of the good spirits who represent him. Materialism invented machines capable of sustaining minimal physical effort for humanity on earth, but it did not suppress the afflictions of the spirit. The more culturally advanced are the peoples of the earth in regard to the brain, the more ample is the rate of moral suffering. Although academic titles and technical advancements are indispensable in the economy of progress, they do not either heal the diseases of thought or get rid of the fire of passions. We are called to work today in the disassembly of the traps of suicide and the combat to the plague of obsession. And there is also an addendum number 6 that I will read. See on next page is a statistical study in reference to the suicide and madness organized by the mediums. So the next pages we have like a research done by the mediums about suicide and madness. So let me just repeat the sentence. We are called to work today in the disassembly of traps of suicide and the combat of the plague of obsession, dismantling the gaps of boredom and discouragement, anguish and disbelief, through which insinuates the force of shadow against light and imbalance against the harmony that governs the existence. Let us proceed. May we stay with the faith in the supreme power and the presence of the Master, who is that same eternal friend who convincingly promised us, whoever follows me will never walk in darkness. Very beautiful text, very profound text. So this is a beautiful message to all of us, and it's a great food for thought, really great food for thought. So let's start digesting the message, because it can be a little bit difficult to understand, especially if you don't have the book to read the sentences yourself. So I see that it's working. I can see Matthew wrote here. So I think one person identified him. He was apparently named Faustino. I don't remember the rest of his name, but one researcher found the matching identity. Who is Faustino? What are you talking about, Matthew? I'm kind of lost here. But anyway, so let's go. So when we start reading the book, the first paragraph, André Luiz is talking about all stations of respectable publicity are pathways in which the spiritist idea needs and has to carry over. So we are using one of these beautiful pathways, because we are using internet, we are using Facebook, and we are using also Kardec Radio. So even people that do not have Facebook, they can actually just listen to our study. And this is one of the so many ways that we can use in a positive way to spread Spiritism, especially in English, because, you know, Spiritism is very, very popular and very well known in Brazil, but it's not well known in many, many countries. Around the world, it's not well known. So it's up to us to help people to understand a little bit about it. I'm not saying that we are going to be converting people into Spiritism, because this is not the ideal. We shouldn't do this type of thing. So we just wanted to bring the knowledge to people. And as we always say, Spiritism is not a religion, it's a philosophy of life. It's a philosophy that helps you to live better, to understand better the consequences of our actions. So in here we know that everything that you do, there is a consequence, good or bad. So we want the consequences to be good. So to do this, we have to do good things. So even if you don't know Spiritism or don't understand how it works, but whenever someone do something negative, the reflection is something negative. If someone is walking, pushes you away on the street, you get surprised, and most of all, you will get angry. You're gonna say, hey, didn't you see me? Or hey, can you say at least I'm sorry? So this is a negative thing. So if you're walking and someone smiles at you, usually the person smiles back, or the person gets surprised with that act of kindness, because nowadays people are so busy walking down with the cell phones, text messaging. People don't even look into the eyes of others. So it's sad, but it's true. People are always like this. I remember when I first came to the United States, in the subways, people were very quiet, and you know, they have their own space, so they don't like to be too close to people. But people were always reading books, and nowadays they still read books, but little by little it's being substituted by cell phones. People are always on the cell phone, and they are listening to music, or they are doing other things, little games. But the books are always the best. They're always the best friends. I can't go anywhere without a book. It's like, oh, wherever I go, I bring one. It's like wonderful. It helps us so much. But so we are actually doing one of these things that André Luiz said when we talk about spiritism in the internet. So people that live in tiny little cities, like for example in the United States, we know in the East Coast there are a lot of Brazilians, and there are a lot of spiritist centers. But if you go more to the middle of the country, it's very different. In the middle of the country, there is almost none. So if there are people there that would like to know, they would like to practice, they would like to do something, it gets much more difficult. So nowadays with the technology, it helps so much to improve this lacking of a physical contact of someone talking about spiritism. So we are doing a good job. We don't need to worry about that. And then he continues, we are before a word in reform, house in transition and remake, between the accommodating of the old and the challenge of the new. So when we talk about accommodating of the old, you know, usually when we are doing something for a long time, we have this tendency of getting too easy used to that. We don't want to change. We want to continue the same way. So sometimes it's good when something shakes and you have to change. And as he said, challenge of the new. So anything new, it can be difficult, but we can always overcome it. We can always welcome the changes and improve it. So it's nothing impossible. When I started doing this type of studies, I remember I did on Skype. So it was a private study, and we had like our few friends, everybody had a camera on. So I felt like I was in the Spiritist Center. I was seeing everyone. It was really nice. It was really good. But we had to leave Skype and go into Facebook, because Facebook really have a much bigger audience. So it's not just our little study. It can be our little study shared with many people in many other locations. So was something that you know, wasn't something that I really enjoyed, because like you see now it's just me and me and me. And in the other study we were all together. We all could talk at the same time, could put comments. So it was very, very interesting, this exchange. But we can't do it right now, so we need to adapt. We need to adapt, and soon something will come up and come out, and we will be able to improve the system. Will be better, but not for now. But we are hoping. The technology is coming quickly, so we are hoping that it will be better. And then he says also, it does not matter that we are few. And yes, when you talk about spiritism, we are few. Yes, I know in Brazil are millions of people that are spiritists, but when you bring to other countries, it's not like that. And when you bring to spiritism in English, it's even fewer. But you know, we shouldn't be discouraged. I know that sometimes people say, ah, but it's hard to study spiritism in English. It's hard to spread the word in English. People do not want to go to the spiritist centers, or they do not want to learn about it. It's okay, don't worry about. I know that for me it was difficult too, because I wanted more and more and more people to be able to come and to enjoy and to benefit of it, to benefit of all these beautiful teachings of hope, that these are the teachings André Luiz is talking, that will break materialism and will break the idea of people wishing to kill themselves, to commit suicide. Because in their minds, they think they will commit suicide, and whatever turmoil they are going through, whatever problem they are going through, is going to end, it's going to disappear. But no, it will not. So Spiritism proves us that our physical body will die, and if you commit suicide, it will be destroyed before the time it was supposed to leave. But you will continue being alive, and there will be consequences for your wrongdoings. So Spiritism is a blessing, and we wanted it to be like spread all over the place. But we have to understand that everything has a time. Everything has a time. And we have to go little by little, like a little ant that carries like a huge piece of bread, but it's carrying it very slowly, but it's doing it. So that's how we have to do. And let's think about ourselves. This is very important. So let's try to improve ourselves, because when we improve ourselves, we become a good example to other people. So little by little, we continue spreading the word, and this is what is important. So I have decided to pass some spiritist movies in my house, just a way of bringing my friends that do not speak Portuguese, and also they have no idea what is spiritism, to have a little bit of knowledge of spiritism. So I passed already a movie in my house, Kardec. It's very beautiful. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on Netflix. You just type Kardec, and you can actually watch the whole movie in English, not just subtitles. It's beautiful, and brings us this understanding of how everything started. But then last week, I passed another movie here called Chico Xavier. It's also beautiful, beautiful. It talks about the most famous medium from Brazil, Chico Xavier. And you can find this movie on YouTube. You just write Chico Xavier, and you write English subtitles, and then you will find a few copies that show the English subtitles. So it tells the whole life of Chico Xavier since a little kid. So I invite all my friends to come, and especially the ones that have like a more open mind, and they would like to understand what is mediumship, what is reincarnation, what is this thing of communicability with the spirits. So these ones, they get more interested. They are like, oh, I would like to see it. So this is the audience that I am showing, but it's always difficult. People are not really open for that. People are like, oh, I don't know, she's gonna be talking, what she's gonna be talking about. So they get more reticent about it. But it doesn't matter. Whoever comes, it's a blessing. Whoever comes is a blessing. And it's beautiful when you are able to experience these things. Because for us, watching Chico Xavier psychographic in a book, it's normal. But to people that never imagined this possible, it's very very different. It's very challenging. So it's good. It's all good. Little by little, we go. So that's the important thing, little by little. So Matthew said, Faustino Monteiro Esposel. I meant that that was his name in Immortality. Are you talking about André Luiz? What's the real name of the spirit, André Luiz? I guess that's what you're trying to talk about. André Luiz was a very famous doctor in Brazil. He lived in Brazil, and this is not his real name. I don't know if you're talking about this, but this was not the real name of André Luiz. Let me see. Valeria joined us. Hello, Valeria. I'm just talking about the movie, and you were here to watch all the movies with us. Claudia Nunes. Hello, Claudia. Oh, long time I don't see you. So Claudia said, better late than never. Hooking up, we'll catch up with your lessons fast. Much love, my dear friend. That's good. I'm happy you're here. You are totally right. So Matthew said, I have that movie paused on my TV right now. Chico Xavier. Ah, that's great, Matthew. I love this movie. I love this movie. And the next movie I'm going to show will be The Mothers of Chico, because Chico Xavier explains how is his mediumship, how it all started, how very difficult it was for him since a child. His family did not understand him. So all the trouble. But the Mothers of Chico will show later on in life when Chico starts psychographing messages for mothers who lost their sons, their daughters, and they were suffering so much. So it's another beautiful movie. So this is the next one I intend of showing, even before the movie Nosso Lar or Astral City that's so famous. So Kardec, the movie is at Netflix. It's awesome. You can watch it with your Brazilian spouse and get to enjoy. Yes, I loved Kardec. I already watched it like 4 times, but I have to say that the first time I watched, I didn't like it very much. It was not what I fully expected. I don't even know what I wanted. But the second time I watched, that's really, I understood the point of view of the director, and I really appreciate all the research he did. Beautiful work, and it's a wonderful movie, very historical, helps us to understand so much about Spiritism. And Claudia said, Chico Xavier is very experienced, that needs to be digested by people that live in fear-based community like the USA. It's very new and different. Yes, Claudia, it's very different for people to understand, especially about the mediumship, because they confuse it so much. They start thinking that's some kind of witchcraft. So it is hard, but the important thing is that we are doing our little work day by day, and whatever happens, it happens. So this is good. So continue with our text here. The number 5 that he talks here explains that so the medium signed an agreement with the Philosophical Library of New York for the launching of the book, The Word of the Spirit. So this book, it's a very beautiful book, has lots and lots of pictures showing mediums actually doing materialization. So show pictures that you can see from the nose, from the ears, the ectoplasm coming out of the mouth, of nose, ears, coming out of the mediums that are usually sleeping. They are like in trance state. And then you can see the materialized spirit right next to the mediums. And this was like amazing work, especially to New York in that time, a long, long time ago. I don't know exactly which year this book was compiled, but I remember when I was living in New York City many years ago, the New York Public Library had actually an exposition on the pictures, and lots of people went to see it. It was very beautiful and very powerful. Unfortunately, the book can't be purchased any longer. They did not republish it, but we can Google, we can go online. So when they finish, I will Google to know exactly when the book was published, and if we have pictures that we can post so you guys can see it later on. So then André Luiz continues talking about the more culturally advanced are the peoples of the earth in regard to the brain, the more ample is the rate of moral suffering. So what he basically wants to say is, more intelligent you are, or more connected with your brain, with your intelligence, you are a little bit more disconnected from moral values. So usually it's not 100%, please, nothing is ever 100%. It's not because a scientist, what my hand is it, it's not because a person is a scientist, is the person has nothing to do with moral values. It's not that, but usually it gets very similar to this. People get super connected on scientific proofs, and then they cannot accept something that you cannot prove. This is like the big issue with science and religion. So they usually crash trying to prove who is better. So science says, oh, I cannot prove, it doesn't exist. And religion say, oh, no, it's not written in the Bible, it's impossible, it's not true. And we know that both extremes are always wrong. Even the spirits, they told Kardec, if even the spirit of Emmanuel, the spiritual guide of Chico Xavier, told also, if I ever say something that goes against science, stay with science. And in Spiritism, we understand that the extremes are always bad. So we have to come a little bit closer. And whenever science opens up a little bit more, beautiful works can be done. And in Brazil recently, we had news of a university that's actually opening up to study spirituality. And religious people, when they start opening up that the science is really important, and especially some religions, not all, please, some religions that are very strict, and they usually say if it's not written in the Old Testament, it's because it does not exist. And we know it's not true. We know, for example, that the whole humanity didn't come from Adam and Eve only. No. And it's funny to talk about it. I already spoke about it, but a very good friend of mine, super intelligent woman, she was talking to me about it. No, there is just we all came from Adam and Eve. And I'm like, really? Are you joking? And she's like, no, it is true, it came from the Bible. And then I was like, well, okay, but so how come this couple had so many kids? It's kind of crazy. And then she was like, well, because, you know, they had many kids, and they actually got married amongst each other. And then I was like, okay, but we know it's written in the Bible that the kids, the first kids of Adam and Eve, they were actually Cain and Abel. So they were two boys. Yes, later on they had other kids. They had girls. But we know that the Cain or Cain in Portuguese, killed Abel. And when he killed Abel, he felt ashamed and he ran away. He escaped to a very far away city called Nod. Nod. A city called Nod, where he met a lot of people and he finally settled marrying a woman and having many kids. So I told this to my friend and she was like, what? A city called Nod? No. I said, yes. Anyway, long story short, even to discuss about the religion, we need to have a good knowledge. Because if we don't have a good knowledge, we are also going into blind faith. And this is to everything. This is to everything. That's why it's so important to study Spiritism. Because when you study Spiritism, you are able to explain certain things to people that actually wants to understand. Because one thing is, oh, spirits exist because Angie said so, or because Chico Xavier used to see them. And another thing is to understand what is it? What is mediumship? How it happens? We can all see spirits? No, because there is a ostensive mediumship. We are all mediums to a certain degree, little degree. But there are people like Chico Xavier, they are ostensive mediums, so they can see, they can hear, they can actually write messages. So it's important for us to have this knowledge, so one day we can actually have an intelligent conversation with people when they really wanna learn about, not just when they wanna fight, but when they are curious and they really would like to learn about it. So, I lost the page. So in this point here, it's beautiful because this book was actually published by the New York Library. Isn't that amazing? So Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira, they actually did this beautiful work. And this is food for thought. Yes, they did it such a long time ago, but the little seed was planted. So the little seed was planted, and now it's up to us to continue spreading the seed around. Yes, maybe we don't have millions of seeds, but we have a little bit. And we have to continue doing this work. We have to continue little by little spreading whatever we can. Even like sharing beautiful texts from André Luiz, from Emmanuel. They are so beautiful. I like to share sometimes with my family. We have a WhatsApp group. They are all Catholics and they don't like real spiritism, but they agree the messages are beautiful and they are very touching. So little by little, they start listening, they start reading, and who knows, maybe one day they're gonna get curious and they will like to know a little bit more about it. So, hello, Elde. How are you, my friend? Nice to see you here. Matthew Mill photographs? Yes, Matthew, photographs of the mediums really connecting with the spirits through the ectoplasm. Very interesting. If I find, I will post in my inner light and then we can all see it. So Elder said, Angie, the exhibition was in the Metropolitan Museum. Yes, in the Metropolitan Museum. Very good. I miss you, my assistant. Eldinho, my dear brother from New York. Yes, it was a beautiful exposition. Very, very touching. So Claudia said, for me, Adam is God and Eve is divine justice, and they gave birth to humanity. That's a beautiful way to think about it. That's very beautiful. Very, very deep. Oh my God, 9:48. The time flies when you're having fun. Anyway, as I said, this chapter, there were 5 pages. So I couldn't finish. I finished the text, but I really want to comment about the statistics that Chico Xavier and Valdo put it here. I will take pictures of the statistics and I will post on my inner light because it's hard. And these statistics are from 1961, 62, and 63. So imagine nowadays. So this is just for you to take a look. Ooh. Quick look here. The camera is not gonna focus, but it's the numbers of suicidal and the numbers of people that went in insanity. So next time, in 2 weeks, we are gonna do another study, but now we are gonna comment exclusively about suicide and about insanity. And we are going to talk about a little bit of the medical side and also the spiritism side and the beautiful hope that spiritism brings to us all, and brings also to people that think about suicide because they imagine when I die, everything will finish. My pain will disappear. And we know it's not true. So Spiritism gives us hope and consolation to understand that all shall pass. Yes, sometimes it's not very easy. It's difficult. It's very painful. But we have to go through it. We have to learn how to go through it because that's the only way that we can improve ourselves. And taking our lives is just postponing a problem because we are going to wake up in the other side with the same issues. So not very good, not very good. We have to be strong. So we are going now to the Gospel According to Spiritism. This beautiful book, my favorite. And a lot of people don't like to study it. They're like, this is the Bible. No, I like the Spirit's book. And you know, it's not true. It's such a beautiful book and it's very deep. And when we study together, helps us to understand it much deeper and help us to have a broader knowledge. And the best thing, help us to put in practice what we learn. Before I start, because we are going to be talking about the loss of loved ones, premature deaths. Now let me go because I will start talking about this case that I saw today and I will not end up even reading. So I just want to read the first part, number 21. When death comes to reap a harvest in your family indiscriminately, taking the youngest before the oldest, you often say, God is not just, since he sacrificed the one who is strong and has a great future, while preserving those who have already lived many years full of a disappointment, taking those who are useful and leaving behind those who no longer are, and breaking a mother's heart by depriving her of the innocent creature that was her whole joy. So, you know, this is a full message of the spirit called Sanson, who was the former member of the Parisian Spiritist Society, the one that Kardec founded. So, but this is exactly what we think. Whenever imagine a mother, her baby died. Doesn't matter if it's like a few days old or few years old. It's a little child. And whenever the child dies, everybody gets like, oh, this is so sad. The poor baby died. It is sad. It is very sad. I can't even imagine the pain of these parents that lost their child. It's extremely sad. But what happened is that nothing happens by chance. Unfortunately, we don't know why this child had to go and why these parents had to go through it. One thing that we know is, because nothing happens by a chance, this child dying in young age is connected with the parents. So the parents are suffering and the child left our physical realm. It made us suffering for the parents, but because of something that probably connected them in a previous life. We don't know what, but if they are going through this turmoil, it's because something happened. We also know that many times the young children, they die at a young age because of unfinished business. Like they had to reincarnate just for 2 years, just for 3 years, because it was a period that they needed to be on Earth to evolve faster. And the parents suffered a lot, but many times, the same spirit comes back. And many times the same spirit comes back as a child to the same couple. But sometimes the spirit does not come back because the spirit evolved, is free now. So our visions when we are incarnated are very narrow. We only see the life we are living right now, the family we have right now. We don't have a broader vision. We are connected right there. So in our minds, we think, wow, I am so old. Why couldn't I die? And this spirit who is so young could stay. This will be the angel of my life. Who said so? Angel of your life? We don't know. Even Samson mentions in this message, the spirit is in a young body, but the spirit is an old spirit, full of mistakes and full of a good thing. So the spirit will have the problems and will have the advancements. But we can never affirm that child will be your angel, because we don't know. We don't know what is his trials, what are his expiations. And we have this narrow-minded, and we get connected with the suffering, and we keep going around. Why me? Poor me, and God is bad, God is terrible. A lot of people disconnect from even believing in God because they start thinking God is some kind of a horrible father who in purpose made me, mother or father, to suffer. And in reality, it's not it. It's all a test. It's all a trial, very painful one. But remember, if you are going through it, please do not go against God. God is really our mother and father, is always helping us. This was a trial that you had to go through. And continue with your good deeds, continue with your prayers, continue with your positive loving, because that spirit might be able to return, or another one will come. And whatever you had to go through, you did. You did go through this terrible pain, and now you kind of erased this from your incarnation. And when you are able to make amends with this pain, you are able to help yourself to progress, and you also help the spirit to progress. So this helps all of us to continue in this wonder wheel of evolution. The worst thing ever is really to go against God, not understanding that God gives us so many opportunities, and that's why we have so many reincarnations. And we do not understand what we did in the past. We imagine, oh, I was a princess, so nice and loving. No, honey. No. There were very few princes around the planet. Most of us, we were really peasants. And as the majority of people in the past, we were really terrible. So if we are still difficult people nowadays, imagine 200, 300, 400, 1,000 years ago. We did a lot of bad things. We committed lots of mistakes. So we need to, we need to improve. That's why we are going through difficult times. But God is so good that helps us little by little. In one reincarnation, you will go through certain things that are difficult. But we are not going to go through a lot of things that are difficult because most of the times we don't have strength to go through a lot of difficult things that would actually help us to progress quicker. But we can't go because we just don't have strength, and we would be able probably to succumb, to go much worse, to commit horrible mistakes. So every reincarnation, we do a little thing that's very difficult, and we try to overcome it. So that's why Spiritism helps us so much, because it explains that God is really like a good mother and father. That even if sometimes we think the treatment is very harsh, very difficult, it is what we need for that period of time. And another opportunity will come, and we will improve, and we will start learning that our kids are not just the one that came from our physical bodies, but our kids are all the other ones that are already there. If you cannot have a kid of your own, adopt. Would be so good if it was possible to do that. So we have many opportunities to improve. One day we will be able to see our neighbors as our brothers and sisters, because that's what we all are, brothers and sisters in spirit. But one day we will be able to love as real brothers and sisters. And the story I wanted to talk about was a story of a forgiveness that my friend Carla actually posted on, I think was on my WhatsApp today. And I went to research this beautiful, beautiful story of this man from Chicago. I don't really know the whole thing, but it seems a police officer went in her building, and she opened the door of another apartment, thinking was her own apartment, and somehow she shot the person and she killed this man. Very, very sad story. Was a horrible mistake. And today was his brother. She was sentenced to 10 years in jail, and his brother was there to say some words to her. And everybody's expecting harsh words and horrible things, as usually that's what comes from in these final trials. But he just gave her words of forgiveness. He just told her that he forgave her, that he loved her as a person. He loved her as a sister, and he hopes she will dedicate her life to God, because that's what his brother would like to happen. So it was very powerful, very beautiful, very, very touching, something really deep. And I posted this video where he talks about it, and also the emotional hug at the end of his speech. He asks the judge if it would be okay to hug her, and they hug and they cry, and it's really like touching, because most of us, we wouldn't be able to do it. It would be very difficult. But for a few people, they already see much, much further than us. Instead of keeping the resentment and the pain of losing the brother, he actually gave her forgiveness because she feels very, very guilty. So my friends, with this beautiful message, I hope to see you again in 2 weeks so we can talk about these tough subjects, the suicide and insanity. But we will be able to bring some hope to so many people that go through it on a daily basis and we don't even know. Mwah! I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye!